So let's talk about error handling. Error handling is very useful when we need to catch errors in our code. Let's say we want to perform a particular function or a particular execution, and we want to know if the execution is successful or not. And if it is successful, we want to carry on with the executions. And if it's not successful, we want to be aware, and instead of interrupting the execution of the entire script, we want to jump past it and keep running the script. So for example, if we say we want to print welcome, we have one line of code welcome, and we have another line of code, and we want to come here and say answer, and want to come here and now print answer. So I'm just writing random lines of code. We have 4 lines of code. This runs, this runs, this run, and this will run. Because Python is an interpreted language, it runs line by line. If we run this code, you see we have welcome. We have this line is running, which is now saying answer is equals to 1 plus 2, which is answer is equals to 3. And then we come here and print answer, we have 3. And then we now have print, this is a new line of code, and we have this is a new line of code. So if there is an error here, for example, we say 1 plus, let's say 1 plus name, and we don't have this name defined because name has not been defined anywhere in this script. It will run this line, and when it gets to this line, it will flag an error and it won't be able to run this line and this line. So let's try. So if we run this, you see we runs this line, which is welcome, and it's unable to run this line because this is an error, and it stopped there because it didn't get past this line. You couldn't run this line and this line, and that is because Python is an interpreted language. It runs line by line, so every line has to be correct for it to move to the next line. This is where try and except or error handling comes in. So try and except is what we use to handle errors in Python. We can handle this error, and if there is an error here, instead of stopping here, we can have it execute this code and this code while still having the error. So we can say try colon, and then we put in whatever we want to check if it has an error or not, and we can put in the accept what we need to execute if there is an error in the try block. So we have the try block and we have the except block. Under the try block is where we want to check for what could possibly have errors that could break the code. And under the except block is what we want to execute when we finally discover this error. So we have line 1 print welcome, and we have line 2 which is try, and line 3 is answer equals to 1 plus name, which is an error because name is not defined. We now want to accept. So if this is not true, if this is having an error, now run this exception code, this exception block, and now we now want to say answer is equals to error, for example. So if this is not going to happen, then this is going to happen because that's how try and accept works. And since this is now functioning, it will now be able to move to the other lines of the code and works as if there was no error in our script. So if we run our code now, you see welcome error. This is a new line of code. So like I said, error handling in Python is useful when we need to check for an error and perform another code if that error occurs, and also not stop the execution of the script while the error is still there. It will still run other lines of code knowing that the error is there and handling the error basically. So that is all about try and accept. See you in the next video.